reaching God's people, created in His image of love.
Hello, welcome to Seek You Lord. Today we're going to talk about something that's sad and tragic about a plane crash that happened yesterday, December 18th, 2025. And it occurred not far from here, from where I live. And it's kind of on my heart and on my mind this morning. And I want to talk about it more from a place of trying to understand what happens when life is lost on this earth and the transition of life over to the other side. So I'm not going to go into all the names and everything like that, but it was a former Nascar driver and his family, and apparently 2 pilots in a private aircraft that crashed in an airport near here on December 18th, 2025, which is yesterday. It actually occurred 24 hours from right now, before right now. We're actually 24 hours afterwards that this tragic accident occurred. My condolences go out to the family and all families that were involved, the family of the NASCAR driver, as well as the 2 pilots that were on board. So a total of 6 people, as I understand it. I want to talk about this from the perspective of what happened, and hopefully this gives people some relief and add some positivity to this whole story. But we've already talked about on this program body, soul, and spirit, and we've talked about the soul being the soul and our spirit being breathed into us from God and having presence actually before our physical body was created in the mother's womb. The soul and spirit had life, I believe, before conception, and it definitely has life after what we call on this earth earthly death. So what happened, just briefly, yesterday, it was a rainy morning. It was cold. It's wintertime. Very overcast, gray skies, low visibility, cloudy, foggy looking morning, drizzle, light drizzle rain. Not a great day to be flying, obviously, but I wouldn't say it'd be a day that experienced pilots, I don't think, would have any issue flying in that kind of weather with using controls for navigation and things like that. So it wasn't highly unusual to be flying in that kind of weather, but it wasn't good weather. I'll just say that. We don't know what happened. So immediately after takeoff, there was some kind of loud pop sound or bang sound, and then the pilots requested to return to the airport for emergency landing, I believe. May have the details slightly off, but they circled around, came back in for landing, and they made it back to the airport. But the video showed the plane was pretty much on fire, completely engulfed in flames, on fire, pretty much from the time it touched the airport runway. So we don't know exactly what happened. We don't know any of the details right now, but here's what I would say to give comfort to family members, friends, other people. Here's what they would have experienced. So as this accident unfolded, It looks like the plane went into a tumble on the airport as it came back in. They probably would have initially felt, the chaos of what was happening. They would have felt the tumbling of the plane and the heat of the fire and stuff. But almost immediately, before really feeling any pain at all, any pain or suffering at all, there would have been almost like a pop where their soul and spirit would have came out of them and went to like a third person position above this whole scene. And so 6 people, so there had been, pretty much 6 of these pops, pop, 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 with all 6 souls and their spirit popping out of their body. Their body would have remained in the plane, experiencing, all this turmoil inside the plane. But once they popped out to this third person position, the feeling they would have had would be of complete elation, like no feeling of pain, no feeling of hardship, no feeling of fear, none of that. And they would have come up above the scene. And we know this through near-death experiences. This is basically what we go through also Bible verses that support that there is no death. We basically transcend quickly over to the other side. But through near-death experiences, we actually know pretty much how this actually works. And they would have come above the scene as a third-person observer. They would have looked down on the crash. They would have saw the plane burning. And they would have been very agnostic, the best way to say it, towards what they were looking at. They would have thought, oh wow, that's a horrible, incident unfolding down there. It looks like people were involved. I feel bad for those people. And it might have even taken them a while to realize, oh, I was one of those people in that plane. But they would have felt no pain. They would have felt no real connection to the physical body. I've heard people describe this as, imagine going in your house and unzipping a pair of old overalls that you used to crawl under the car and change the oil in the car and things like that. Imagine going in the house and zipping that, pulling that off, getting it off your legs, and then throwing it into the washing machine. That's how our body feels while we're here on this earth time. It's like an astronaut suit that we're wearing. It's not the real us. It's not the true us. And it's an important thing to have. Obviously, we need it here on earth to do all the things we do here on earth, but that's not us, okay? That's the soul is separate from that, and the consciousness is separate from that, and our spirit is separate from that, and those things do not die when our body experiences tragedy or earthly death. Those things do not die. So again, they would have been above the scene looking down. They may even stayed there as long as watching the fire trucks arrive and ambulance services, rescue services arrive and start to put out the fire, and probably heard people talking and, trying to figure out what to do and what the next steps. And so they would have probably stayed there a little bit. But at some point they would have felt sort of like they were ready to move forward, and they would have, people describe different ways to get to heaven, but sometimes it's like a tunnel. It's like a translucent type tunnel with, it might be bright white light walls that kind of form the tunnel and a bright light at the end of the tunnel, or it might be a darker type tunnel with a bright light towards the end of the tunnel. Some people describe just a simple transition, like 1 minute they're looking at this scene, and they look over, they feel a presence, and they look over to their right or left, and as soon as they look, they're walking right into paradise. Basically, they're walking into a beautiful meadow with beautiful grass, flowers everywhere, beautiful mountains in the background, and they're walking through this beautiful meadow, and their eyesight is like magnified 1,000 times. Like they can see things that are a mile away, but they can see it in detail, like tell you every color, every line, every detail about it. They could look at flowers and tell you, the inner essence of the flower, how the flower is actually composed and everything. So this super heightened sense of awareness. If they had a question at that point in time, any question that forms in your mind is immediately answered, because you're in the realm, you're in the spirit realm where there is no lies, there's nothing but truth, and God has nothing to hide. So if you have a question in that realm, it's immediately answered. So they would have been getting, if they had any questions about what is this, what's going on, what just happened to me, all that stuff would have been immediately answered for them without speaking it out. There's no need for words. It's all done telepathically, the communications on the other side in the heavenly realm. And many people describe a reunion, often with relatives, past relatives, even grandparents, former grandparents that you don't know, maybe died before you were born, or died when you were really small and you don't remember them, aunts, uncles, brothers and sisters if they've already passed, mothers, fathers, just this horde of people that you walk towards. And they would have had instant connection with all these people. They would have knew exactly who they are. They would have been, they would probably appear in their younger version, like their 20s. That's what people usually appear in, like they're, say, 27, 28, 29 years old. And they would have had instant recognition. They wouldn't have to ask, who are you, or any of that kind of stuff. They would have known exactly, oh, this is my great aunt on my mother's side, that used to take care of me some. And this is my great grandfather who I never got to meet. And so they would have known instantly who these people are. They would have felt love towards them, and those people would have embraced them with so much love, so much care. And it'd be like they'd never been apart. Like, they'd never been separated. Like they'd maybe gone away for 5 minutes and then came back, and now they had this reunion together, and it was just all love and all caring. And I think the person involved in this, the NASCAR driver, I believe, worked a lot a year ago with the hurricane relief effort up in Asheville, North Carolina, to get supplies up to Asheville to people who were affected by the big floods that were up around Asheville area, and that washed many homes away and devastated the area up there. Very poor area across that area. And a lot of people lost their homes, they lost their cars, they lost ways to get in and out. The bridges were washed out and things. So a lot of people were in need of food, water, and emergency supplies and blankets and things in 2024, the fall of 2024. And I believe this, if I understand correctly, this NASCAR driver helped with that effort a lot. And I'm sure the people that had passed away in that event and had their family members helped by this person up in Asheville. He flew supplies up there, if my understanding is correct, and did a lot to give food, water, supplies and things to people in need up there for many, many weeks, many months. And those people would have also embraced him, I think, and his family, and thanked them so much and been so appreciative of what he did. So I don't know if that gives solace to the family, the families involved. I don't know if that helps or not, but I would tell you, what your past loved ones, if they had a message to you, is the other side is all about love. It's all about caring and being completely honest and truthful and just loving as much as you possibly can, and spending every waking moment trying to figure out how you can pray over your community, love other people, give yourself over to other people by sacrificing your time, your money, your energy, pouring into other people, and love into the community, love into maybe your church, into your neighbors and local towns and those kind of things, and just pouring yourself in where you can into those things. And they would also say, I think, get in touch with your inner consciousness, which is the inner I, the true self of who we are, because we truly are not this physical shell that you see. We walk up to people, we see their mouth moving, and we see their figure and their face, and we notice, their hand gestures and things, but that's not the true person. The true person is the soul, the inner conscious of that person and their spirit, which is invisible to the naked eye. We can find that person out by talking to them and getting deeper, have a deeper conversation with them. But I think they would encourage the ones they left behind to, go out in nature, probably today, in the next coming days, and just completely free their mind of thought and worry and anxiety of this earth and all the things going on, and just get in touch with the inner conscious. If I hold my hands out like this, one quick way to kind of tap into the inner conscious is to say, if I don't look at my hands, and I don't wiggle my fingers, and I don't move my hands, and I don't move my arms, how do I know my hands are still there? That perception, that awareness of my hands still being there, even though I'm not looking at them, I'm not wiggling my fingers, I'm not doing anything to know that they're there, but I know that they're there. That's the inner conscious inside of us, and that's what we want to tap into. And when you can get into nature and you can be around trees and plants and flowers and grass and things that are alive, basically the water, the beautiful sky, the clouds, when we get around all that and we lose all the heaviness of this earth. And sometimes our breathing, we need to breathe in and relax, and breathe in and relax, and just let all this heaviness go, because what you realize is the physical part of me, the physical form that I present to people, is not the real me. Okay, so come out of your body and do just like they did. Come out of your body into an observer viewpoint in your conscious, in your soul, looking down at this physical form, but being aware that you're not that physical form. That's not who you are. A lot of people depend on their looks when we're in our 20s and depend on other things, but those things fade, and you start to realize that there's more to this whole life than these physical things. These physical things are not the true us. We're going to move past this physical world. We're going to move past all these physical things. And that's why so many of these conversations we get into, and these arguments and discussions here on this earth, are so meaningless, because they mean nothing on the other side. The only thing that means something on the other side is love. Love, kindness, goodness, joy, the things of God, the things of the Spirit. Those are the things that matter here on this side. But see, we can't see it because we're looking at this physical form all the time. And when we watch people on TV, we're looking at the physical form. And when we see people in person, we're looking at the physical form. And we're judging the ego self, which is these layers. We take our inner conscious right here in our heart. We'll just say it's in our heart. And we build these layers on top of that. And it's called our ego self. And that's what we present out to the world. I'm a big business person. I'm a big businessman, big successful businessman. I'm a doctor. I'm a nurse. I'm a carpenter. I'm a roofer. No, you're not. You're not any of those things. The true the true essence of who you are is your inner conscious, and it has no labels, can't be labeled. And once you start to be able to meditate and work to get to the true divine self, the true inner I, and you can elevate that consciousness out of yourself, out of your body, out of the physical form, and look down at the physical form and the ego and see, the ego. I watch the ego put on all these masks, like they have our ego has a mask for work. Our ego has a mask for when we get around relatives during the holidays. We perform certain roles. We had to perform certain roles as a kid, and now we have to perform those roles as an adult too, because that's how we fit into our family. I want you to understand that's an ego layer that's been created in your mind to deal with trauma and things, deal with hardships and things in the past. And that's not the true you. That's not the true essence of who you are. Your true inner soul, your true inner spirit, which is all loving, all caring, all joyful, and is connected to the source, God. And it's also connected to every other spirit, every other soul. And on the other side, what you realize is the need for that connection. The reason we feel lonely, beat up, and discarded on this side, on the earthly side, the physical side, is because we lack those connections to other souls, which we're used to in the heavenly realm of things. We're used to that. But when we get here, the world tells us you don't need those people. Those people make you angry. Those people, get away from those people. Don't talk to those people. Those people are scary. They could be dangerous, So the world keeps telling us as souls, as the inner I, the inner essence, it keeps telling us to get away, separate, break connection. But on the other side, what we quickly realize is all that's deviations. That's not true. That's falsehoods. And we need each other more than ever here in this physical realm to just survive, just to get through the craziness of this world. And I want you to know that God understands the difficulties of this planet. He understands the difficulties of coming here as a soul and separating from that beautiful connection we have in heaven, to agree to separate from that for a time being. And the other thing I'll tell you is time here is, the way the heavenly body of souls would look at an 80-year life here on earth would be like 20 minutes of time. They just see it as 1 minute you're gone, 1 minute you're back, So when we're on the other side, and we're facing decisions about coming here and the difficulties about this earthly life, and maybe even the physical pain we're going to take on, the physical trauma we're going to take on to improve our soul, because that's what this earthly life is about. It's about improving who we are as a soul and becoming more like the source, becoming more like God, which is all loving, all kind, all merciful, full of grace, full of forgiveness, with no harshness. That's what we're trying to be. It's more like the source. So the way we grow our soul is we agree to come here and do this earthly life. Okay. The problem is when we come here. The problem is when we come here, we're veiled off. Our mind is veiled off from the truths of the spirit world. So we have to, number one, discover once again who the source is while we're here. We have to discover who God is and what he means to us and how important he is. And that essentially is the discovery of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, accepting him as Lord over our life, and then receiving of the Holy Spirit, which is our guide while we're here on earth. That's the first critical step. But then the Bible talks throughout the whole New Testament about the battle of the mind, the battle of things unseen, faith, keeping the faith and moving forward when we feel physically drained, but we know it's the right thing to move forward and to reach out and help other people. That battle goes on even after you accept Jesus here on earth. That battle continues. And we have to fight that battle every single day we wake up. So we need God involved in that. And that's why step one, finding Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, is absolutely critical. Because then we have help from him. We can communicate to him through prayer and receive blessings and guidance and healing and things we need from him. And even if he doesn't heal us, again, we have to have faith that we need to continue. We need to keep working as long as we're here, because we are going to transition to the other side. Just like we talked about this family who died in this plane crash, and the two pilots who died in the plane crash, they transitioned yesterday morning at this time, 24 hours ago. They transitioned over to the other side, and without any foreknowledge that any of this was going to happen. Obviously, they may have had sort of premonitions about it, but hopefully they came to know the Lord Jesus, which I would think they probably did, and hopefully, which it sounds like they were living a life out that would be honorable, their soul trying to give to other souls and try to be kind and generous to other souls. That's what we're called to do here. And again, this is why this whole notion of living this ego self of, I'm going to make money and I'm going to be in charge and I'm going to dominate these people and I'm going to tell these people what to do and I'm going to scream about this guy and I'm going to curse about this issue and all that kind of stuff is, when you have a full awakening of who you really are, the conscious self, the spirit self, once you have that full awakening, you realize how stupid all that stuff is, how all that arguing and debating and talking about the earthly powers and things we're seeing out there in politics and things we see in our community that frustrate us and being angry about all that stuff is completely worthless. It's not worth your time to talk about it. It's not worth your time to discuss it. It's not worth your time to think about it. This is one of the reasons I've completely let TV go. I don't watch TV anymore. It's a complete waste of time. You go 2 months without watching TV and see if you miss anything. See if you've had a great loss in your life. Now, occasionally, me and my wife will watch some program, like we watched The Life of David. Just watched that recently, and that was awesome. We watch programs like that we plan to watch. We don't just sit there and idly turn on the TV and let crap be pumped in our mind. But that's what the world wants. The world wants to pump all this crap into your mind. And, capitalism is alive and well. Okay, and people trying to sell things. And one of the greatest ways to make you feel like you want to buy something is through worry and lack. Okay, if they can make you feel like, oh, my neighbor has that, but I don't have it, I better go buy that. Or, lack, everybody else is getting that, why I better get one. That's capitalism and marketing going wild. Okay, that's what's being pumped in your mind every day through TV and even social media sites. Okay, and again, social media sites, complete all this crap that's on these social media sites, complete waste of time. You sitting there bragging about what you did with your family, the big vacation you took, complete waste of time, because it doesn't add value to anybody's life. That's the bottom line. It doesn't add value to anybody's life. So you might actually be doing damage to somebody. Can you imagine losing your job, being depressed about your job, and having a friend get on Facebook, and on Facebook they post this big family vacation they're getting ready to take to Europe or something, and you just lost your job? Does that make you feel better? No, it hurts. We kind of create on social media this competition, and on the spirit side, there is no competition. We're in direct opposition to what is on the spirit side. We're creating realities on this earth, conflicts, war conflicts, conflicts between social classes, conflicts between ethnicities, different groups, different countries, all this stuff, all these clashes that we're creating. It's all man-made. It's all fake. It's not necessary. It's not needed, but we're doing it because somebody is letting their ego self, not somebody, everybody, pretty much, that's not awakened to their conscious self, is letting their ego self drive every decision. That's what's driving all these decisions out there. So when you say, why is the world so corrupt? Why is all these bad things happening? Why is, what's going on? What's happened to people? Well, what's happened is we've lost connection with our true divine self, our true conscious. We don't understand what that is anymore. And we've let this ego false self that we built up over years, and it was built up through, usually it starts with trauma events as kids. We start building on the ego to add protection layers so that we don't have to face trauma and things in our past. And then we just keep building on it. And eventually we forget who this inner self is, the true divine conscious self is. We forget. We don't know who that person is anymore. So when we identify ourselves, we say, I'm, Joe Schmo architect, or I'm Joe Schmo IT analyst, or whatever your job is. That's how we did it, because we've lost contact with who our inner essence is. Our inner essence doesn't have a label. It doesn't have, a name per se. It's just pure awareness of everything around it, but also pure awareness of itself. Like the fact that you can perceive, like you can feel, and you can have thoughts about something without, your brain being overactive. Like you can look at a flower and marvel at the beauty of it, and also marvel at its design, like how the source, the great creator, designed that flower, without being wrapped up in all these thoughts, in our brain, cooking our way. So I'm going to kind of wrap up and kind of bring it back to where we started with the death of this family. It's not, it's definitely not the end. It's just a transition. Just like we transition here to earth and we go through this life to improve our soul and get us closer to the source, then we transition, back It's just a transition. That's all it is. And it's nothing to fear. It's nothing to worry about. In fact, those people, after they transition out of their body and were getting ready to move into that loving light that they were moving towards, you couldn't get them to come back if you wanted to. There's no way you could get them to come back. And they were just immersed in warmth and love and care and non-judgment and connectiveness to all other souls and connectiveness to the source and complete harmony, completely in tune, easily communicating, the feeling of togetherness, the feeling of bonding, the feeling of warmth, and that's what we strive for inside. That's what inside we want. We want that here on earth, but we fight these ego self, and then we get into conflict with other people, and the conflict we get into with other people is about their ego self. It's our ego self wanting to fight their ego self and complain about their ego, and it's all this bickering and fighting back and forth, and it's just completely ridiculous because it has no value. And actually our accomplishments here, all the things that we would claim as the great accomplishments, the money we make, the contracts we land, the marketing campaigns we build, the big buildings we build, the monuments we set up, all these kind of things, all these traditions, all these practices in church and different things, all that stuff means absolutely nothing. There's no love in it. There's no care and concern for others in it. It's everything on the other side is about the living, breathing love of God and all the souls' connectiveness in love and kindness and joy and togetherness and forgiveness. That's what means something. So if you want to take something from all this, take the fact that we need to find our inner self. We need to find our true divine self, our inner conscious. And we need to work on that. That's something we can work on. I can't work on my neighbor. He's got to work on himself. I can be kind to my neighbor. I can show my neighbor love. I can take my neighbor food. I can mow the yard when they're out of town. I can do things like that, but I can't. It's not up to me to go change my neighbor. That's up to them. I have to change myself. That's where the focus needs to be. That's why another thing I would tell people: stop complaining about people, stop bickering, stop pointing people out. It's not your job or role to judge. It's not your job to do that. It's your job to work on your inner self, improve those godlike qualities inside yourself while you have time here on this earth before time runs out. That's what you're supposed to be doing here. It's not about making money. It's not about building monuments for yourself and things that you're trying to make glorify you because you set this up or did that or whatever. That's not what it's about. So I leave you now. I just pray for peace and love over everybody, and especially over those families that are affected by this tragedy. I know loss is always difficult and it feels confusing. So I hope they find solace in knowing that their loved ones are happy and joyful and celebrating life. The more real life, actually, on the conscious side, the heavenly side. And they can't wait to see the loved ones still here, when they transition over. And I just hope they have peace about this whole thing, as well as anybody who's either about to lose someone or has lost someone recently. Just have peace about it and know that it's all about love and trying to seek out the source, and through him draw into us the light that he has so that we can shine that light out to others around us. That's what it's all about. Have a great day.